Matt Roberts with Athletic Director U with Garrett Klassy, the Athletic Director at UIC. We discussed talking about the subject of defining a unique value proposition, working that UVP into an overall strategic plan and kind of going down that line. But you made an interesting comment to me leading into this overall conversation. We're not there yet. Right? You've been at UIC for a handful of months.
Sure.
Where are you and what comes before really defining what that UVP is?
Well, I think a lot of times as strategic plans at every athletic department are all over the internet. There's plenty of ways to see what other schools are doing. And I think some of the mistakes I see is that a lot of times they're put out too soon. You fully have to understand the culture, the environment, what your school needs, what your what your constituents want, and how is it going to help your student athletes move forward? How is it going to help your university move forward? How is it going to move your athletic department forward? And so I've been there 5 months at UIC, and I'm still at the process of really talking to the key constituents, whether it's the student athletes, donors, administration, the chancellor, to figure out what are the things that we need to move us forward as an athletic department.
How do you take that feedback that you hear from different constituency groups? What kind of framework do you work it through, or you and your staff work it through, to understand here's how the pieces may come together? There's a lot coming at you at one time.
Yeah, we meet as a staff monthly and to talk about a strategic plan. It's something we want to roll out in the near future. There's no timetable on it because we want to do it correctly, but we've already defined our unique value proposition. It's preparing student athletes to change the world by putting them in a competitive environment to compete for championships at the highest level. And so that's the easy part. I think that's what every school is trying to accomplish, because as educators, we take that very seriously. We want to make sure that they're receiving the best education and they're fully prepared in life after UIC, as well as we want them to have a positive experience winning championships. But when you receive that feedback, you just have to compile notes. I have a long list of notes back in my office, and I'm still a little bit old school. I have it on a paper notepad and not on my computer all the time. But that's a little bit of the mad scientist in me. I like to talk to everyone. And at the end of the day, it falls on me to make those decisions. But to get key feedback from everyone is very important into putting together a strategic plan.
How much do you consider the input of constituency groups within the leadership of the university? Clearly, you take them into account, but what weight do they carry for somebody who's new to an institution, is going through this process, and you have some folks who have been on campus maybe for decades in some cases?
Well, it's very integral to have everyone's buy-in, including campus leadership. I'm very fortunate. I'm in a situation where I have an amazing chancellor, our vice chancellor for health affairs, because the health school is a very big part of UIC, as well as our provost. They all came from colleges and universities that had high-level athletics. So they know what athletics can do to enhance the mission, the brand of the university. So their buy-in has been very easy. And so having experiences from people from the University of South Carolina, the University of Nebraska, LSU, my experience from Oregon and Alabama, as well as George Washington, to combine all those experiences together, and especially from an academic and from a leadership standpoint, very important. So they have the knowledge. It isn't me just selling them on the fact like, hey, athletics can move this place forward. It's them saying, hey, we understand, let us help you, which is always an enviable position to be in.
Do you start to develop these kind of conversation lines with those leaders even back in the interview process to understand how they want to position athletics on the campus?
Absolutely, because no athletic director wants to walk into a situation where there isn't full buy-in from the academic side or from the leadership side. And so, I came in and asked, what was your vision? How can this in place improve? How can we help the academic mission? How can we move the brand of UIC forward? And those discussions happened in July when I was interviewing for the position.
And now that you've circled back, have you sat down with people and said, here's what I heard you say during the interview process, and now I want to dig deeper on that? And is that the seamless approach to getting them to open up further about how they can help you devise this greater strategy for your department?
Yeah, absolutely. My first 5 months, the majority of my meetings have been with key stakeholders on campus. Not a lot of fundraising. I love the fundraise. I like to be out in the public, but you got to take care of everything in the home front first, and to have the rest of the campus understand what you're trying to accomplish and to have them buy in is the first step. You can't go out and fundraise until you have everyone that's buying into what you want to build as a culture and as an athletic department.
What happens when you run into a roadblock?
Well, luckily, I haven't run into any roadblocks yet. I know there will be some, but I'm big on education. I think there's ways to help out both sides. I'm a negotiator. I think, I don't know what those roadblocks may be, but at the end of the day, whether it's the Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs, we're both there to enhance the student experience, whether that's the student athletes or whether that's the students that come to our events. Health, the Vice Chancellor for Health, well, we have a lot of student athletes that are in pre-med, or they're in dentistry, or they're in the nursing program, and so how do we better help them obtain, their mission and goals? And so, on a campus, I'm just a small part of the giant university mission, so I need to be a partner with all of them on what they want to accomplish.
The unique value proposition that you stated, how is that different if I'm in your league, let's say, if I'm at Green Bay, or if I'm at Youngstown, or another institution? How does that specific UVP apply to UIC and only UIC?
Well, UIC is very unique. 40% of our college graduates are first-generation college goers, and this was from the December statistics. And so that's very important to us on our mission. And so, we're very unique in the fact that preparing them for life takes on a different meaning, which doesn't mean second and third and fourth generation college goers aren't going to be prepared, but they're not getting the mentorship that they may be getting from parents that have never been to college before. So we take that very seriously, and we have a very robust mentorship program where we have over 60 former UIC student athletes that are paired with their juniors and seniors that are in their field of work, that really are preparing them for the obstacles that are facing them in career. And it's not just career, but it's also life advice, and it's very important. So we're taking different measures just to make sure our student athletes are ready to take on the world after UIC.
This process is still maybe months from concluding, but once you have the strategic plan that you're satisfied with and you think fits the institution and your department, how do you sell that to your frontline employees, the folks who are answering the phone
Absolutely.
when somebody wants to buy tickets, the folks who are answering the phone when there's frustration within a system of the department and a fan wants to communicate that? How do you sell it to those frontline folks?
Well, I'm a type of leader that I want to empower everyone, and that's not just my senior staff. It's the director level, it's assistant director, it's the interns, it's the student workers. There has to be buy-in from all levels. And I'm a type of person, maybe it's my blue-collar background, I'm not going to ask my staff to sell something or to do something that I wouldn't do myself. And so to have input from them, because everyone's going to be involved in this process, and for them to fully understand what we're doing, we need their buy-in. And so it hasn't been difficult at this point because they believe in what we're doing. Of course, I'm fortunate to take over for someone who's been there for 22 years, so there's a lot of people looking for fresh ideas, and right now that's been a pretty easy process.
I mean, your maturation to this industry, you're not too far removed from being that assistant AD, associate AD, senior associate. Thinking back to when you were in those roles and now sitting in the AD chair, is the way you deliver the message of the importance of the strategic plan different at those levels of experience, maturation, seniority, oversight?
Expectations are the same. We have a culture of accountability, and I would say, no, it's not any different. I am who I am. I've always been very fortunate, whether I was an intern, a student worker, assistant AD, associate AD, where I've overseen employees. So I think how you treat and how your expectations for employees are going to be the same. So I don't believe I sell that any different. Now, I keep a stronger pulse on it, because when you're a senior associate for external, you're only looking at certain areas of the department. But now, overseeing the entire area, you have a vested interest in making sure everyone's operating smoothly. And so I would say that's the biggest change.
I'm asking you to kind of look into the future and to the 8-ball a little bit here, but how do you anticipate gauging or measuring the effectiveness of the strategic plan, maybe in its first year or two?
Well, when this strategic plan gets released, it's going to have some clear goals, set goals with very much some detail.
Objective data that you can look at maybe.
Absolutely, and that's going to be easier to follow. I see a lot of strategic plans where they say, well, I want to make this more of a diverse and inclusive environment, and I want to enhance our facilities, and I want to enhance team travel, but there really aren't any achievable goals in there. And so when we look at fundraising goals, they're going to be listed in there. We're going to increase our fundraising goals by 100%, and we have to accomplish. Whatever facilities we build, we're going to list what facilities we want in this plan, and we're going to list the reasons on why we need these facilities to compete at the highest level. So those are the things that it's going to be pretty easy to follow, because we're going to have the goals in there. They're not going to be objective, they're going to be very detailed, and we're going to list them out in our strategic plan.
I've always wondered, and you've read a ton of strategic plans from institutions across the nation, and certainly we include them in D1 Ticker when they surface and are very relevant. Sometimes they feel like you're biting off so much at one time.
Sure.
where's that balance? How do you know when to define which goals are year one
Yeah.
goals, which goals are year two goals? Do you feel like you have a grasp yet on maybe what the capacity of the department is to achieve in a
Sure.
single year, let's say?
Well, and that's why you can't be overly aggressive. I'm aggressive by nature. I like to dream big, but at the same time, you have to be realistic, because if you set these goals too high, then you don't pick up a good head of steam, and then people lose buy-in. And it's not just your staff, it's also your donors, it's also your student athletes, it's your coaches, anyone that's involved in your program. So they have to be realistic goals. Now, they can be aggressive, but aggressive goals can still be realistic. And so from that standpoint, that's why you don't want to put out a strategic plan in your first 2 months getting to a new job. And nothing against my friends that have done that, but I just feel like when I put something out there, my name's on it, it's attached to it. I don't want to build momentum just by putting some generalities out there. I want to put some clear, succinct goals in my strategic plan, and that's why I've been going through this process.
You used the term, losing steam and not trying to be too aggressive on the front end. Losing steam would be one indicator that a strategic plan either isn't taking hold, maybe. But are there other indicators in your past that you've seen or that you expect to see? How do you know when a strategic plan has run its course?
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of ways it could run its course. You could have new leadership at the university that has a different vision for the athletic department, or you could accomplish all your goals. I've been very fortunate to work at a couple institutions where we accomplish a majority of our goals. And so, when my strategic plan comes out, it's not going to be a 5, 7, 9-year strategic plan. It's going to be a shorter version, maybe a 2, 3 strategic plan, because I think with the climate changing in college athletics so quickly that you have to stay on top of it and you have to adjust with the times. And so the 5, 7, 9-year strategic plans, I think, are going to go by the wayside because they're not realistic, because things are changing so quickly.
Do you think it's a requirement for new ADs to create their own strategic plan?
I don't think it's necessarily a requirement, but I think it's a good roadmap for your staff, and builds excitement within the fan base. It builds excitement with the coaching staff. It builds excitement with the student athletes. So I think it's a good roadmap, but you don't need one to be successful, I don't believe.
Let's go back to the UVP and kind of end there. Could the UVP change? I mean, is that something you'll constantly be looking at? The university itself, and we know enrollment changes in the state of Illinois, but
Sure.
but nationally, there's different trends, there's different things happening in higher ed that can change where UIC sits in the framework of opportunity for up and coming students.
Well, I don't think it will ever change, because that's who we are. We want to succeed in the classroom, we want to succeed in the community, and we want to succeed in the field of competition. That's all very important to what we're trying to accomplish. So, I think that's a good basis. Your value statement is very important. So we're always going to make sure that our student athletes are ready to take on the world.
Awesome. Thank you, Garrett.
Great, thank you.